We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Welcome back to Weed Talk Live. I'm Jimmy Young.
And I'm Curt Dalton.
And now we are joined by
David Rabinovitz,
who is part of history in the cannabis industry in Massachusetts. I'm going to read the headline. Massachusetts marijuana company NewCann Group secures the first retail HCA, which we all know is the host community agreement, without securing a store location. And it's interesting that we kind of showed a little clip from Kobe Evans from Boston, because I know for a fact that Kobe has had to pay rent on a facility for over a year and a half just to get to this point. You won't have to do that. David, first of all, congratulations. Great to see you again. And by the way, we're spending far too much time together. Tell us a little bit about what happened, how you guys were able to do what you did.
It was a long road, Jimmy, and I'm very, very thankful to the selectmen in Maynard. They were, as we expected when we first pitched this idea, they were very much opposed to it. Town council was opposed to it. But much to their credit, they listened, they understood what the issue was, then they pondered it, debated it, and eventually got comfortable with it, and council began to understand the underlying issues and put together a contract that protected the town, but still allowed us to uncouple location from the team.
So we did an article about your piece on Cannabis.net called
saw that.
The Boston Strangler. And to refresh people's memory, what had happened was landlords had become a nodal position, meaning they had way too much power. You had to get a team together, as you had said before, and you had to have a lease or at least an agreement in place. So the landlord all of a sudden in these communities, host communities, could line up 10 people and say, who's got the most money? It's my spot. You've broken. Is this a trend for the future, or what are we going to see happen?
We're really hoping it is a trend for the future, and we're hoping if it gets enough press and enough traction, a lot of the communities that still haven't handed out all their host community agreements will look at this and realize it really is a lot better for the community for a number of reasons. Just assume that you have 48 teams that are interested in two stores, right? And maybe there's 8-10 possible locations. When 48 teams descend upon 8 landlords, it's just like you said, it becomes a bidding war. And we've seen it time after time. The rates go up, the landlords ask for a lot of non-refundable deposits, and the people who get to go before the town are the ones with the deep pockets that were able to get the letter out of the landlord. And the best team may be a team that the town never sees or the city never sees. This way, if we break the paradigm, which we have, now the community can look at the teams, pick the teams they want, and then send them out in the community.
And what kind of shockwave has this sent through the SE and the EE applicants in Mass? Are they now rejuvenated that they have a chance?
They're partying. I can tell you that right now. They're very happy.
Yep.
Well, you know, I don't know, but I'm going to find out on Saturday. The Boston Freedom Rally is this weekend. At 3 p.m., they have a session on the challenges facing small business in Massachusetts cannabis, and I'm going to hopefully participate in at least part of that. I'm dressed a little casually because I was helping the people from NewCann get set up, and I think there's going to be a lot of EE and SE applicants in that session.
And something happened in Cambridge regarding social equity and the EE applicants. The Cambridge City Council has pretty much put a moratorium on the existing medical dispensaries for 2 years before they can move forward with their recreational program, in order to give time now to the social equity applicants to set up shop. Is it enough time, David, now or not? What do you think is happening in Cambridge? And I think there may even be a lawsuit.
So, well, I'm sure there's going to be a lawsuit. But it's interesting. A couple of the people who are participating in Cambridge happen to be in the email thread that I shot out Tuesday night. And they were congratulating us. And then I got the message back that on what Cambridge had done. Now, a couple of the people I know who are participating over there told me they're paying a lot of money to hold on to their location. So they fall right in the category, Curt, that you were talking about. It's $6,000 a month going out the door just to hold space so they can get in front of the city council in Cambridge to hopefully get an approval. And if they don't get an approval, that's $6,000 a month, right? You have to have really deep pockets to withstand that kind of a drain to say, now I'll go try it again someplace else. This really levels the playing field. If, in fact, the municipalities start to evaluate the teams on their own and pick the best operators, before they send them out to get real estate.
Does the Cannabis Control Commission in Massachusetts or the state have the ability to executive order it, that this is the way, or is it really, like, can they order this to be across the board starting today?
No, they can't.
Okay.
But because they don't control the municipalities, right?
Okay.
The municipalities are independent, as they should be. But a lot of this is the municipalities don't realize that they can evaluate the team independent from the location. So they believe that you have to have a location when you come in. We were up against another team in Maynard who came in and said to the selectmen, we're doing it the right way. We found a location. And fortunately, by then, the selectmen had gotten themselves educated enough and pushed back and said, they're not doing anything wrong, they're just doing it differently.
Excellent.
And I can't tell you how grateful we are to the Maynard selectmen for taking the time to understand the issue. It took us 6 months. It was 5 trips back there. But by the time it was done, I think they understand it as well as anybody in the state could understand it.
Well,
We're very grateful to them.
This is certainly something that needed to be changed, and I hope all the host communities, put their foot down and say this system was set up we didn't see it coming, but we can fix it.
Right.
And how's that mayor in Fall River doing? Sorry.
There's some letters for sale.
Yeah,
Letters.
I understand that he actually is going to be on the ballot to get reelected. It's like Buddy Cianci all over again.
Buddy
isn't it?
Cianci. Come on, it's Massachusetts. It's like Michael Curley. I remember the stories that Michael Curley was selling desks out of City Hall to finance his campaign, right?
But they were nice desks, too. I got one.
Sure they were, right?
Well, the best desks in town back then were, M. Brown office furniture. I just want to say the old family business had to give it a plug there.
So what's your next month, 6 months, and 12 months look like for your project?
So for our project, one of our side projects, as you know, is we're trying to start a cannabis incubator. And Maynard has been a very good town to work with, so we're going to see if we can find space for that. I continue to work with casually with a number of economic empowerment applicants, and I'm hoping that this helps ramp that up, that we can help people get into the game before it's too late, right? There's 218 applications in for retail stores. Wow. I don't think there's going to be more than 350 stores, right? Springfield just announced they handed out another 4 host community agreements. When you think about all the host community agreements that have been handed out that they haven't gotten their application in, there's not a lot of chairs left in this game. And if something doesn't change soon, those folks aren't going to get an opportunity. So I'm hoping to help out a number of them.
If other communities don't change, and let's say we hit your number of 350, how many of those will be SC and EE applicant, dispensary owned or operated?
I don't think a lot. And I do know this.
10%?
When you look at the numbers of EE applicants as to what they're interested in, between retail and multiple license classes where retail is part of that, retail is the number one level of interest. So you got 120-something folks, let's say 110, because I think there may be a number of other applications in. But let's say there's at least 110 economic empowerment applicants who have not applied to the Cannabis Control Commission. If half of them want retail licenses, there won't be enough to go around. In fact, we're working on a letter to the Cannabis Control Commission to make some suggestions while they're further reviewing the regulations. We made some recommendations back in August with the draft regulations, and based upon the deliberations that have been online, we want to take another stab at a couple of suggestions.
Wow. Here's a news item just in here to the Cannabis newsroom, the Pro Cannabis Media newsroom. The Cannabis Control Commission has given a commence operations to 2 more dispensaries right around the corner in Ayer, Massachusetts, Gage Company, and in Millbury, Massachusetts, Nature's Remedy. They can now commence operations, and I'll be honest, I didn't do enough homework on it because I just got this about an hour ago. So do you know anything about these guys? I'm going out on a limb thinking they're not social equity applicants. I'm just going to go out on a limb.
Nature's Remedy. I think they are one of the larger operators.
Yeah, I think so. Breaking news. You're hearing it live.
Yeah, and you know what?
Yep.
David, this is a part of the development and the historic rollout of cannabis that has gotten a really, I don't want to call it a black eye, but certainly a bruise Okay, a bruised eye, a bruised body. And where do you, I know you're hoping that this is a precedent-setting development, but in reality, are we really going to see much change, do you think?
It depends what the Cannabis Control Commission does in the next few weeks with the regulations, right? I think there are too big. Here's what I've seen time and time again. You speak to an investor, and the first question out of their mouth is, do you have a license? And if you say no, the next question is, you want to take a yes?
Can you get one?
No. Do you have a host agreement?
There you go. Do you have a host community agreement?
Yeah.
And then if you say no, they say, get back to me when you do. Right? If we can shorten the time, or if the Cannabis Control Commission comes up with a method to basically give a pre-approval, not a provisional license, but one step before a provisional license. They've reviewed the team, and the team is good. They've looked at the operating plans, and the operating plans are good. You properly organize as a corporation or an LLC, and they say, kind of like a mortgage, here's your pre-approval letter. Now the team takes that to the community and says, I want a host community agreement, and gets a host community agreement without a location. That would be nirvana, because then they get the location, come back, get it approved by the governing board, the Board of Selectmen, of the City Council, go before the Planning Board, then come back to the Cannabis Control Commission, who's already reviewed a bunch of their stuff, right? Now the Cannabis Control Commission should be able to get them to a provisional license quick, and now we've really compressed the time. And by compressing the time, we're minimizing the bleed.
There you go.
It's funny you brought up time, because in our article we said 120 days. What is your time element that you were given from Maynard to come back? So you have this approval, but how long do you have to say what's your location?
So we have 6 months, right?
Months, okay.
And we agreed to that really quickly, because originally at the meeting before, so a week ago, at that meeting, they expressed a concern about realizing, well, this could be open-ended. Now, their other agreements didn't have a time limit in it, but those folks had come in with the location, so the town assumed that they would apply quickly. And they were originally focused on, we're going to give you a time limit to get your license. And again, they are great people to work with. I pointed out to them, what you're doing is good on the time caller, but we can't control when we're going to get the license. What we can control is when we get on file.
Right.
And the discussion then went to, well, we want you to have the location within 6 months.
6 months.
And I quickly said,
yeah,
I'm on the record, I'm on TV.
Sold.
We'll do that. It's very fair, right? If we can't find a location in 6 months,
right,
we should be thrown out.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And isn't Maynard where Monster.com was, right? Isn't there a lot of mill space out there?
There's the mill, but Monster.com, how about for those of us who either have gray hair or no hair, Digital Equipment Corp was born in.
That's right. That's right.
They are known as the birth of the mini computer. Maynard is a great little community surrounded by Concord, Acton, Stowe, and Sudbury.
And I can tell you they have a great media educator in their high school, too. I've been out there. They have a great program. I believe the kids run all the robotic cameras for the meetings out in Maynard. I think you saw that, didn't you, David?
Yeah, not only did I see that, there was a meeting that I wanted to see the video, and the town administrator said you should watch it. And I was lamenting, saying, I've been looking online as to where it's going to be there. And he said, don't worry. He said, the kids are back in school. It'll be up in no time.
And they do great work.
They do a wonderful job.
Speaking of which, I want to talk a little bit about Kobe Evans, a gentleman that I met for the first time on Monday night. The Boston Cannabis Week put together some great panels at District Hall in the Seaport area, and it was about 4 hours of discussions of some of the all the different people from the different parts of the cannabis space. Shalene Title was there. One of the commissioners was there. They had a science panel that was chaired or moderated by Dr. Marion McNabb, and Kobe Evans was on one of these. And let me tell you a little bit about Kobe Evans, because we are talking about host agreements. We are talking about social equity and economic empowerment. Kobe Evans was able to secure effect in Washington, D.C. There seems to be some movement down there. But as you know, you're only dealing with the city, and they've got the whole country of politicians to get through. You encouraged about what you do here about perhaps a vote for the Safe Banking Act?
I am. And I think that when you see people like John Boehner and you see, Mitch McConnell, who supports the hemp bill and the farming bill, and you see that this is an industry that spans across the country, and people, no matter what side of the political party they exist, they need banking options. So I think it's a no-brainer that the fix is just about regulations. The law is just correct the penalties and fix the regulations. So this is a basketball term, we call it a layup.
And now you can see the finish line, I'm guessing, so you're getting even more excited about that.
Yeah, again, you're at the finish line. And now,
just beginning.
And now you have all this work to do. I'm still trying to figure out when you celebrate, because every milestone just creates this new level of work that you have to take care of. And it's like, I don't want to say it's overwhelming, but I am waking up at probably 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning trying to solve problems.
There you go. Yeah. And you're from Boston.
I am.
So this is, I mean, again, you got to take a lot of pride in the fact that your hard work, you persevered, and you became the first.
Yeah. I enjoy that fact, but at the same token, based on just being a voter, I voted for there to be more people like me, and when that's not happening, I feel somewhat slighted as a voter, because I voted for equity and I don't see it happening as quickly, So yes, I do celebrate the fact that of our success, but as a constituent, as a citizen, as a perfect person who's civically engaged, I want to see more results, So again, it's this, it's bittersweet, but I do enjoy it.
So that was Kobe Evans, and his point about the vote. In 2016, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts passed Question 4, legalizing adult use of cannabis. And at the time, the vote was, I believe it was 53% to 47%. You're the numbers guy, David. I think I got that right. Now it's well over 60% in favor of the legalization and the use of adult use recreational cannabis. But it was frustrating for Kobe. He's like, look, a vote used to mean something. People have died for the right of voting, and now we just don't seem to be getting the same result. And he's a little frustrated, as am I might add.
He should be, right? The city of Boston should be leading the charge, because
it all started here back in the 1700s. I just want to say something.
Yeah, but look at the demographics, right? When you look at the demographics of the people who have been harmed on the war on drugs, and you look at the different communities that the Cannabis Control Commission identified, the city of Boston is one of those major communities, and yet they're dragging their feet. And what is just as bad, if you do a dive and look at some of the companies that are looking for host community agreements in Boston, it's the same problem that I've talked about. It is a lot of big companies. Everybody wants to be in Boston. He deserves to be in Boston, right?
He's a Boston guy.
He's from Dorchester, I believe.
Went to Bentley,
or Mattapan.
And graduate of Bentley University, I might add.
Yeah, but even so, he's from that neighborhood. Yep. I was working with a guy out of Dorchester who had a location in Hyde Park, and then it got scooped up from underneath him, and it was just crushing to him. And he deserves a shot at this. But you can't get in front of the city council until you have a location, and the locations are a fortune.
Unless you go to Maynard and you work with you. I'm just saying.
Well,
I'm giving
look, if there are economic empowerment applicants out there who are interested in Boston, you're going to find me at 3 p.m. on Saturday at the Boston Freedom Rally in the Challenges Facing Small Business in Massachusetts booth in the Education Village, and I'm easy to find. You know what I look like. Talk to me. I'd be glad to help you out.
And you are one of the more brilliant financial analysts in not just the cannabis space, but I'm going to, I'll embarrass you a little bit. I can do that. And I really appreciate you coming in. I know that this was kind of a big week for you. I'm sure you're as burnt out as I am right now, by the way, since both of us were up late last night, taking advantage of Boston Cannabis Week. Scott Bottano and Lisa Finelli have put this thing on, and there's been different events every night. I think the golf tournament was today,
I think.
right? So again, this is a celebration of sorts, David, that you have been able to accomplish something that nobody else has been able to do. And I think the whole community can look at what you've done and get behind you. And I'm really hoping that others will have the same experience that you had in Maynard. But we all know what reality is, and we know it's still a challenge, and we're all facing it no matter where we are in this whole process. That's just my rave for the moment.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So,
find this gentleman. How can they, if they can't make the Freedom Rally, how could SCE applicants pick your brain, talk to you? What should they do?
Well, I think when we're done, these guys are going to put a slide up that has my contact information. I'm hoping.
Yep. We will do it in. This is what we call.
Okay,
we'll be doing it in post because
In post, that's great.
we are live streaming now.
That's all right.
But we fix all the little oopses that have happened in the live. We used to do this at NECN all the time. We used to call it fixing the news. We're going to go fix the news. I'm like, how do you fix the news? It's live, for crying out loud. Just embrace it. You know what? Humans make mistakes. We're frail beings. Deal with it. Okay? What can I tell you?
I know you're on LinkedIn, so there's one spot they could track you down.
I'm on LinkedIn. Go to the incubator. I'm hoping we're going to get that incubator up and running. It's cannaventurelabs.com. They can find me on there.
Perfect.
There you go. Cannaventures.com.
No, Cannaventure Labs.
Excuse me, Cannaventurelabs.com.
Right.
And we'll spell business right the next time, too, I might say. It's all right. I'm sorry I point out the little oopses, but you know what? That's what this is all about. You got to learn from just doing it, right?
Yep.
David Rabinovitz, thanks for coming in tonight.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And by the way, you filled in for a guy named Bruce Linton, just so you know, because that was the guy we were all excited to meet with, the ex-CEO from Canopy Growth. Curt Dalton keeps telling me, I text him all the time. He's a friend. He's in. We planned this whole show about this interview with Bruce Linton. And he had a family event that he had to go to.
You are obviously a bigger celebrity today in Massachusetts than Bruce Linton right now.
I don't know if I go that far, but I will say this, right? Last time I was on the show, Curt called me the next day, and I became his friend, so you can tell where his standard is.
That's right.
Yeah.
The bar is not that high.
Right.
And the funny thing is, Bruce actually
but the fish are.
Had an event at a children's hospital that he and his wife give to, and he had to go to tonight, so he had to postpone. And you know what I did, Jimmy?
I know what you did.
I took back my donation. I charged back on the hospital. I said, good luck to those kids. Good luck. Bruce, you made a bad decision for that $25. Sorry, I'm out.
So next week when we sit down with Bruce, you can pay him back and let him donate that back into the... Because after all...
he owes us.
That's right. And guilt is a great motivator. We will have an interview with Bruce Linton because... Mr. Curt and I are packing our bags and heading down to Iriman. We're going to Jamaica to a conference down there, a cannabis conference out there with some incredible speakers.
Yeah, if you're interested for the East Coast people, shameless plug, it's a great conference. It's in Montego Bay, a nice, easy trip from the East Coast. The speaker lineup is out of this world, and it's a small venue, and they all stay at the same hotel. So it's a really great... Vincent Fox, ex-president Bruce Linton will be there.
Ex-president of Mexico.
Mexico.
You might as well fill in the blank.
Yeah, we have a list that you would not even believe that you're going to be sitting around with just asking questions in meetings. So.
I already requested an interview with John Sally, the NBA veteran with, I think, a handful of championship rings.
You bleed green, huh?
I do bleed green. It's okay. I also respect professional athletes, all professional athletes. He will be down there, and I look forward to talking with him about CBD because we are talking about creating a new podcast for sports and CBD because there are a lot of sports figures now using CBD. We know Rob Gronkowski, CBC Medic, the Abacus Company. He's now a spokesman for them. So there's a lot of that going on as well. So we've got another half hour to go here. Don't go away. David, thank you again for coming in.
Always a pleasure.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.